Imagine this tonight before your eyelids fall heavy, you whisper only a few words to yourself. Not a prayer, not a spell, not a desperate wish. Just one quiet sentence, spoken not to the world but to the universe that lives within you. Because what if just before sleep, the line between your conscious and unconscious is still open? What if in that thin silence you could plant something there? A thought, a seed, a message that your deeper self will carry through the night. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what most people do. They fall asleep carrying yesterday's pain, tomorrow's fear, and last year's guilt, and then they wake up wondering why their mornings feel heavy. Because the unconscious doesn't rest. It listens. It remembers. It builds your tomorrow from the words you feed it tonight. You see, sleep is not the end of your day. It's the beginning of your inner dialogue. Your body lies still, but your mind begins to weave emotions into stories, symbols into dreams. And those dreams, those whispers from the deep, are not random. They're responses. Responses to what you handed over before you closed your eyes. Most people hand over chaos. They replay arguments. They scroll endlessly through screens. They think of what they didn't do, who they disappointed, what they fear might go wrong. And then they drift off believing they've escaped. But the mind does not sleep on unresolved emotions. It continues the conversation in symbols. A broken mirror, a falling elevator, a chase through darkness. These are not meaningless dreams. They are messages from the self that was never heard during the day. Jung called this the symbolic dialogue of the psyche. It's the language of images, not logic. And here's the truth: your unconscious doesn't speak English, Spanish, or French. It speaks emotion. It speaks ritual. It listens to meaning, not words. That's why certain rituals before sleep are more powerful than therapy sessions. Because they bypass the conscious noise and go straight to the place where transformation begins. Now imagine this. You sit at the edge of your bed tonight. The lights are off. The noise has faded. You can hear your own breath again, slow, uneven, real. You place one hand over your chest and whisper something simple. Something alive. Something that tells your mind it's safe to rest now. What would happen if your last thought wasn't fear? What if it wasn't regret or planning but surrender? What if instead of saying, "What will tomorrow bring?" you said, "I release today"? The unconscious doesn't argue with you. It simply takes the last message and builds a world around it. If you fall asleep in anger, your dreams defend you. If you fall asleep in worry, your mind rehearses loss. But if you fall asleep in trust, something sacred happens. The psyche stops fighting and begins to heal. Carl Jung believed every night is a rehearsal for rebirth. The moment you close your eyes, the small self dies, the one that was worried, overthinking, performing, and the true self awakens beneath the layers. That's why ancient traditions called sleep a little death and awakening a resurrection. Because every night you have the chance to return to yourself. But here's the tragedy: most never take it. They drag their pain into the night like an anchor. They drown in the same thoughts that broke them during the day. And in doing so, they teach their soul that peace is a luxury, not a birthright. Yet peace is always there, waiting at the edge of surrender. You don't earn it, you allow it. You don't chase it, you invite it. That's why Jung insisted that intention before sleep is one of the most underestimated psychological rituals in the modern world. He saw it as a threshold, a sacred handover between the conscious mind and the deeper, eternal part of you. He called it liminal awareness, the moment between wakefulness and dreaming when the self still listens. And whatever you whisper in that space becomes architecture inside your unconscious. Think of your mind as fertile soil. It doesn't decide what grows. It simply multiplies what is planted. You can plant resentment and you will harvest exhaustion. You can plant gratitude and you will awaken lighter. You can plant surrender and you will awaken free. So tonight, when the world quiets down, don't just collapse into sleep. Enter it like a temple. Because that's what it is, a sacred threshold where your words become worlds. You don't need 1,000 affirmations. You only need one sentence that carries truth. And that sentence, the one you will learn in this video, isn't about changing your outer life overnight. It's about creating harmony inside so that your outer life can finally catch up. Because as Jung said, the outer world is a mirror of the inner one. When your inner world is chaotic, your reality mirrors chaos. When your inner world is calm, life reorganizes itself around your peace. You've tried forcing, controlling, overthinking, and where has it led? To exhaustion. To the same patterns disguised as new beginnings. So maybe tonight try something different. Try surrender. Not as a weakness, but as the highest form of strength. Because when you stop fighting your own mind, it finally has room to work for you instead of against you. And when you hand over the day with humility, your unconscious begins to respond. Not with fireworks, but with alignment. With the small miracles you don't notice at first, lighter mornings, quieter thoughts, unexpected clarity. In the second half of this video, I'll reveal that single sentence, the 7 words Jung's philosophy would call a bridge between the ego and the soul. A sentence so simple you might doubt it. But if you speak it with presence, you'll begin to notice the first real pace you've felt in years. Now that you understand the threshold between waking and sleep, let's step through it together. Because this is where transformation begins, not in daylight, not in effort, but in the silent surrender of the night. Before you learn the 7 words, pause. Breathe. Feel your heartbeat in your chest, steady, ancient, patient. That rhythm has been with you since the beginning, long before your worries, your name, your plans. It's the pulse of something deeper, yourself, as Jung called it, the center of the psyche that watches your life unfold like a film. It never judges, it only waits for you to listen again. And tonight, it's listening. You don't need candles or music. You don't even need to believe in anything mystical. You only need a moment of honesty, the kind of honesty that appears when the world stops asking for your performance. Close your eyes. Imagine the day behind you as if it were a coat heavy, used, ready to be set down. You can't carry it into sleep. Let it slide from your shoulders. Feel the air against your skin, lighter, freer, like you've just stepped out of something false. Now in this space of release, you'll speak 7 words. Not out loud if you prefer, the unconscious doesn't need sound. It only needs sincerity. The 7 words are these. I release, I trust, I return, thank you. Only 7, but they carry an entire universe. Let me explain why. I release, these 2 words are the gate. They tell the unconscious, I no longer hold the rope. All the control, all the worry, all the things you think you must solve before rest, you hand them over. You acknowledge that your power doesn't come from gripping tighter, but from letting go. Jung wrote that what we resist persists. Release is not defeat. It's collaboration with the deeper intelligence that knows more than our waking mind ever could. I trust this is the turning point. Trust does not mean blind faith, it means alignment. It means saying, even if I don't understand, I believe there is order behind the chaos. Trust is how you speak peace into the unknown. It's how you open the door for synchronicity, Jung's word for meaningful coincidence, the language through which the universe replies. I return, these words are sacred. They mean I come back to myself. To my center, to the part of me that was never broken. Because no matter what the world took, the self remains untouched beneath it all. Every night when you sleep, you have the chance to return to the child within, to your forgotten dreams, to the part of your soul that remembers who you were before you learned to doubt yourself. And finally, thank you. Gratitude is not the end, it's the transformation. It's the bridge between what was heavy and what can now float. When you whisper thank you, you tell your mind that everything you experienced, even the painful, has meaning. You reframe your story not as a tragedy, but as a lesson. And the unconscious, hearing this, begins to reorganize your inner world around peace instead of protection. So simple yet so profound. I release, I trust, I return, thank you. Say it slowly. Let each word land not in your head but in your chest. Because the unconscious doesn't respond to logic, it responds to feeling. The feeling of release. The feeling of trust. The feeling of return. The feeling of gratitude. Do this for 3 nights. Not as a superstition, as an act of remembering. You'll notice small things first, deeper sleep, quieter dreams, less noise in the morning. Then the larger things will follow. Decisions that feel clearer, emotions that move through you instead of against you, people who mirror back the peace you've begun to anchor. Because when you change what you hand to the unconscious changes what it hands back. Carl Jung called this reciprocal transformation. He believed that when we consciously engage with the inner world, even through a single phrase, we awaken what he called the transcendent function. It's the process by which new meaning is born from the tension of opposites, light and dark, fear and faith, ego and soul. Your 7 words become the bridge. And over time, they stop being just words. They become a rhythm, a pulse that guides you through difficulty. A soft reminder that you can always return to peace without needing to control every outcome. Because every night you're invited to start again. You're invited to release what isn't yours, to trust what's unseen, to return to yourself, and to thank life even for its unanswered questions. Do this long enough and something extraordinary happens. You stop feeling like you're falling asleep. You start feeling like you're falling inward, into a vast, quiet awareness that holds you without condition. That's the self Jung wrote about, the infinite within the finite, the eternal within the everyday. And when you wake up from such a sleep, you'll notice that nothing around you has changed, yet everything feels different. The same world but lighter. The same problems but less personal. The same people but easier to forgive. Because peace doesn't come when the world changes. It comes when you no longer fight your own mind. So tonight when you lie down, don't let your last words be complaints, fears, or regrets. Let them be a key. A soft, sacred key that opens the door between your conscious and your soul. Say them with presence. I release, I trust, I return, thank you. Then close your eyes, not as an escape but as a return home. Because as Jung said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. And every night in the stillness between breath and sleep, awakening begins again.